We read.
Welcome to Ballers and Briefs on the 28th of October, Week 8 primer outlook. Got to say, hunker down. Hail, Georgia. We kicked Florida's ass today. Sorry, I had to put it in on there on you real quick, Brad. Sorry, I had to.
Good.
But
good. I understand.
While on a higher note, stand up and let the people see it. I want the people to see it. I want them all to see
the little merch there a little bit.
BKeele Athletics.
BKeele Athletics.
That we've been
Brad's
preparing.
personal brand,
Been going on for a little bit. Something I've been cooking up. Looking to release in November, potentially on the 13th of November. My lucky number. But we'll see, if everything works that way. But I'm excited to bring out this line and introduce it to the people. It's going to be football gloves and also sideline towels. So again, very excited to introduce that. The name on it, with the last name on it. I'm proud of it. So again, thank you, Cody, for the shout out.
We will once the store goes live, we will drop the link in the chat going forward. Spam it out.
StillAthletics.com coming soon, November 13th. Look out for me.
Let's go. I'm super stoked for you, bro. Like I gotta get a shirt. So I'm gonna be out here rocking it. Looks
now
good.
The shirts are a little bit of my own sort of custom line, the private line. So we won't have shirts on the original drop, but later down the line, that is something that we'll be looking into. But right now we're focusing on football gloves, and both on the youth and the adult level, and then also sideline towels. The one you see behind me is actually going to be the first one that's going to be released.
Sweet. So with that being said, how about we talk a little NFL? And just general thoughts of what we've seen so far going into Week 8. Is Josh Allen again, or was the Bucs just garbage? Or what did y'all think about Thursday night's game?
I'm done betting on sports.
Well, we do know that. We do know that it seemed to be. I know we was talking the whole time, and I kept telling you that touchdown was coming, and it did. I don't know why you took 10 points.
I did like Allen. I mean, I liked Allen going into the matchup. I thought that it was a fairly favorable matchup.
First off, Buffalo wins that game by 14 points. If the guy does not face mask the guy, at the very end of the game, it was 4th and 8. He's in the grasp. He's going down, and you just randomly grab his face mask for no reason. Just hold him, and the ref will call the play dead, and it's turnover on downs. You gave him a first down. Sounds like Vegas made a phone call. Homie came in, purposely, threw the play, gave him 4 free downs, and then he scores to fuck the spread up. So I'm not sports betting no more. I say that, but I'm probably going to sports bet again this weekend and lose more money. But it's the way the cookie crumbles. But I don't know if Josh Allen looked like Josh Allen again. Diggs definitely didn't look like Diggs.
It looked like we all missed on Gabe Davis and Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir.
I mean, I had
talk about Kincaid.
I had a lot about
Kincaid and the fact that he was that sort of solo tight end, which would lead to pretty good matchups. I will say from that point.
I played Gabe
Diggs didn't have technically a horrible game. He just didn't have a sort of Diggs style games where you're seeing multiple touchdowns, over 100 plus yards, those types of things. But I think he did still end up getting, what was it, 8 for 86 or something along those lines. So he still had a fairly solid game. It just wasn't, a Diggs game.
No, not at all. I mean, I don't think we saw what we expected from Diggs, being that I rostered him as 50% of my captains. And 50% of my captains were Rachaad White, when I should have went, if I was going to go anybody on the Bucs, I should have went Godwin.
I went Evans and Diggs, and it didn't pay out. But I also had Gabe Davis as captain in single entry, and I still didn't cash there neither. So
I didn't like the injury designation on Godwin going into it. And, I mean, sometimes it doesn't change the fact that the person could potentially have a good fantasy game, but sometimes it does. So you kind of weighing that risk a little bit. And I wanted to stay away from it on a short week.
I agree. That's why I didn't have a ton of Godwin. He had that Q tag.
Drew says ref ball all season here. So
It has been.
It has. I
Literally
mean,
been.
yeah, literally that Philly game the other night was that way.
Kansas City game was like that. It was bad. It's just Vegas, man. They say NFL is entertainment. They do not say it's a sport, and entertainment is acting. So, are they ever going to come out and be like, "Yeah, we make phone calls. Yeah, we have some stage shit going on back here"? I don't know. Not in our lifetime, but there are big time bookies that have came out and talked about refs and players staging games to pay their debts to the big time bookies. So could have witnessed that.
Yeah,
Take some time to find it out. We'll find out later.
Well, so y'all wanna get straight into the matchups?
So the first one is your Texans at Carolina. You got any injury updates going into this one?
Yes. So some stuff that's pertinent information. If you are rostering these guys, I would say these guys in season long, and a punt play maybe for it would have been a punt play maybe for DFS purposes. Robert Woods is out with a foot injury, so he is our wide receiver number 3 or kind of 2 with Tank Dell coming. Tank Dell's coming back. He is off. He's out of concussion protocol, so he will start tomorrow. Our tight end 2, Brevin Jordan, is out also, the pass catching tight end out of Miami. And a key up front. This is on the defense. If you're running a defense, I actually went and ran ahead. I'm running the Texans defense tomorrow in season long. I went and grabbed. I had to drop them. Last week on bye, and then I jumped back out there and grabbed them again because.
Walk through that one for me, Cody. What you thinking about that matchup?
I personally see that this could be this. They're not giving Bryce Young time to throw the ball. I mean, Adam Thielen's eating, but he's taking sacks, right? He's taking sacks, and it's Adam Thielen. You stop Adam Thielen, you stop that offense. I just seen because I just feel like they can't get the ball down the field to anybody else. So they're just Adam Thielen, run a little bit with Chuba Hubbard. I guess maybe Miles Sanders might be back in the lineup because he's not on the list here as questionable or out. So I assume that he's back unless he was on IR. I don't remember if he was on IR or not. But with that being said, Sheldon Rankins is out, our defensive tackle, in runs kind of like the nose there in the D'Amico Ryan's defensive line. So it could land to that the game kind of run. That's a way to attack the defense is up the middle because you have the rushers from the outside. You got Will and you got Jerry on one side or Jonathan Grenard over there also. So they like to attack from the outside like D'Amico likes to do. So that could lend to maybe a running game. But other than that, I think I think the defense is going to get to Bryce Young. And I think we see tomorrow overall pick number 2 is better than overall pick number 1. And I'm going to be thinking myself that I wanted Bryce Young all along, but I'm so glad I'm going to be calling the Bears up and saying, hey, calling Lovie Smith, thank you for winning. Thank you for beating the Colts and giving the Bears the first pick for them to trade it to the Panthers because I just feel like Bryce Young ain't ready and CJ might be ready. And then on the Panther side, Laviska Shenault and Von Bell are both out. So those are not like super – Von Bell's a safety, and then obviously Laviska Shenault's like 4th wide receiver or gimmick guy or whatever. So, and then Brian Burns, the linebacker, is questionable. So, it's not like high heavy hitters. It's a lot of people on the defenses on both sides. So it's not really. Titus Howard, our tackle, is questionable, so that could throw a monkey wrench in. But again, I don't think it's not things that are going to be suspectly. Or specifically for DFS season long. So, Phil, do you have thoughts on this game? Are you playing anybody in this game?
I don't know how much I'm gonna get to people in this game. The game has a 43.5 point over under, which isn't that high. I don't even think it's like average. So not projected to be a lot of scoring, but Dame Pierce looks very interesting. Carolina is absolutely horrible against the run. Dame Pierce, I was trying to pull his ownership. It's way down here, dude, somewhere. It's very low for what it's worth. Where is it? Here it is. 2% projected ownership. Very low owned.
It's because people are scared because he's not been getting the touches,
Go out.
touches that we thought he would, and there's been conceding quite a few touches to Devin Singletary. So I could see that's why Dame is down there. Personally, have him a season long. I'm running him out tomorrow against the Panthers. All it takes is one for season long.
Yeah, sure. Carolina's allowing like the second most points to running backs on DraftKings. It's like 12. It's like almost 13 points more on average than the other teams on DraftKings. I think Denver's the worst, and Denver's only the worst because of what Miami did to them. So technically, if you don't that one game. Overall, on the stretch of games, Carolina is the worst. So, Dame Pierce looks interesting, and then the fact that you mentioned Robert Woods is out is a significant boost to Tank Dell. I like him for like Millie Maker type contest, deep GPP type contest. Get some action to him. I don't know his ownership. Let's see.
I'm looking at it right now.
It's like 12%, I think. So. Yeah. It's kind of up there. People are on it. Yeah, I'm seeing him as the 6th highest.
People were probably holding off though for the concussion news, and I'm not sure if that just dropped in the last 24.
No, the concussion
news on Dell.
So like I saw it yesterday.
Ownership probably will go up.
I took him out of IR 2 days ago on season long. So
to be honest, he's pulling higher ownership than Nico Collins. It'll probably make me go to Nico Collins if that stays the same. Just because I want to be different than other people, and Nico is a better wide receiver, and he's the wide receiver 1. So if everybody's going to be on Tank Dell, then I might as well switch it up and go Nico and have a better odds. If he does good, then I'm in front of more people, and I have a higher chance at being in front of more people because he's the better wide receiver, and he's the favorite.
For the season long, actually. Yep.
I don't think I go to Thielen in this game. I know he's
gonna be over-owned. Yeah. I think
he's gonna be over-owned probably. He's like the GOAT for PPR right now. But
yeah, he is.
Like Cody said, man, it's a quarterback situation there, and Houston has been allowed. They're like a top pass defense from I don't know how, but they're allowing like
D'Amico Ryan's defense.
Yeah. 7 points less on DraftKings to wide receivers than on average. So for purposes of that, I don't look for Thielen to have that star game. So I won't be going anywhere on Carolina.
You see Nico at 10, Phil? Is that what you said?
10.6, yeah.
And then
Tank Dell at 11.8.
Oh, really? What I was looking at says 8.04. So maybe what I'm looking at is outdated numbers. I don't know.
I'm gonna refresh mine now just to be sure.
I just pulled it up just a little bit ago, so that's why I was wondering.
Receiver, I still Tank Dell at 11.79.
Okay.
Are you on the main slate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, it's like.
Hang on, my bad. Hang on, my bad. I see what I did. It clicked off. I see it. Same. You were correct. I was wrong.
All right, 11. Yeah, he's high, and he's higher owned than Nico. So for those purposes, if I go anywhere on that game, it's Nico or Dame Pierce. If Dame Pierce stays at 2%, then I'm definitely gonna have some Dame Pierce. That's for sure.
I honestly I think that he's probably going to stay low just for the simple fact of the matter is, even here in Houston, people aren't really satisfied with what he's giving us right now, which I feel like they're trying to abandon him too quickly, right? I mean, this is his second year in the league. We do know that players have a sophomore slump, and then year 3 or the end of year 2, they tend to come back around. We're having so many issues like we always seem to do, even though we're paying the freaking highest left tackle in the freaking league, not named Trent Williams. Our offensive line is having so many injuries and turnover problems, right? Like we just can't keep the same 5 guys out there, and a running back depends on his offensive line to make holes for him. And then when he hits the holes, then it's his job. But if the holes aren't there and there's nobody blocking, picking up the run blitz or picking up the defensive tackle that's trying to stuff the gap, what can the running back do, right? So I think that that number is going to stay relatively low. I don't see it soaring above closer to 6 or 7% if it's at 2 right now. I don't see it being that high, just for the simple fact of the matter is people are still afraid of that because of Devin Singletary. That's just really the reason why. And I just heard that so much around here.
I like fear though. When people are scared, they don't play it. Is opportunity.
Yeah.
The spread on that game is Houston favored by 3.5. At least that's what I got it at. I'm sure with a number like that, you'll see it anywhere from 3 to 4 points, depending on your book. Who do y'all think comes out with this win? They are in Carolina. I personally think Houston covers this game.
Well, Brad,
I actually have Houston basically winning the game for the fact that I have CJ Stroud actually for my stardom pick of the week, or I guess I could start saying the BKeele Athletics stardom picks of the week. I'm gonna go with my quarterback this week is actually going to be CJ Stroud. I really like this matchup with much of what was already stated before, given the fact that I believe that the Houston defense should give CJ Stroud a couple more possessions, potentially even a possession on the drive side going in tomorrow, which will then lead to more possessions for potentials for touchdowns. That secondary for Carolina is very suspect, which again would lead to potential game flow where there should be more touchdowns and more fantasy points. And actually, just going back for CJ Stroud, he has not had a sort of a game where he scored less than double-digit fantasy points all year. He's had actually 4 games of 2+ touchdowns, throwing touchdowns. And just even kind of going back to his draft, I remember him at the combine, watching him throw. The immediate thing that kind of came off to me was how well the ball came off and the accuracy in that, and that's going to help you in this game. In the NFL is having that deadly accuracy. And I just think this is sort of a get right opportunity for CJ with a sort of a struggling defensive team, a team that's sort of on the outs with the Panthers, that I think that there leads to opportunities again for a really successful game. So again, my quarterback stardom of this week is CJ Stroud. I really like this matchup against Carolina. I think he really has opportunity to put up a couple of touchdowns tomorrow. Excuse me.
I think he comes close to 250 tomorrow. I just think it's 250 and at least 1 touchdown, if not 2. I mean, he went 190 some odd snaps or whatever it was. He's second all time or third all time as a rookie in complete passes without an interception. And I'm going to be the first person to say that I was disappointed him drafting him, but maybe I've eaten my words this year and I've come around to CJ Stroud, and I think CJ Stroud is what we needed here in Houston, and I think that his skill set works for Bobby Slowick's offense. So that's off the Shanahan tree. Get out of the pocket, get the ball downfield, and just make those accurate throws and be a pro quarterback, right? Like scramble when you need to. I mean, he doesn't have super wheels, but he's got, like I always like to refer to that type of Aaron Rodgers type that get moving and you see someone open, take off and slide, right?
He's
like
got just enough mobility. It's not necessarily scrambling, but ability to move around the pocket. And also, just like we said earlier, with Dell coming back, that's one more extra weapon against that defense, which again will lead to better opportunities.
I think tomorrow it's obviously I'm going to go with my Texans. I think 27-21. I think they win by almost a touchdown tomorrow.
I agree.
I'm with it. Next game, the Rams at the Cowboys. This is probably one of the games that I'll be targeting for DFS purposes over under in the middle of the pack, but I think it's like the second highest over under on the slate. It is 45.5 point total. I could see, I know LA passes the ball a lot. Dallas, it's kind of middle of the pack with it. They both are two very fast paced offenses. I think like 7 and 12 or something like that with fastest pace in the NFL, which is good, which is what I like to see. That means they're not, running slow, killing clock, that type of thing. They're moving the ball or they're turning over the ball, one or the other. The Rams have a high-powered offense: Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, Higbee. Is Kyron Williams playing? I'm not even sure.
He's on IR. He's on IR. Yeah.
So,
I wish. It's killing me.
Injuries of note are Ben Skoranek. We just know Ben Skoranek is Ben Skoranek, right? Like he's that. I show up when I need to, and then I don't show up for like 17 games, right? Like
weeks.
Questionable. Offensive lineman Rob Havenstein. He's I think he's a guard. I think
right tackle. Right tackle for the Rams.
Right? Yeah. He's questionable with a calf, and then on Cowboys, Tyron Smith with a neck problem, questionable. So again, Tyron Smith has been a stalwart of that defense that offensive line for years, and I think it's starting to catch up on him, right? So I don't know if that lends to a good game for maybe they put Aaron Donald over top of him, but I still feel like this game's going to be a score fest on both sides. I just really don't feel like the Dallas defense is not the Dallas defense we thought they were going to be. They've not been the same with Trayvon Diggs, without Diggs. Micah Parsons is going to be Micah Parsons, but even Micah Parsons is one man. So he's not Nick Bosa or TJ Watt. So I like this game for the simple fact of the matter is we have seen and Puka and Cooper Kupp what they've done together. And we thought that one was going to negatively affect the other, but I haven't seen that. Literally, when they're on the field, they're just as deadly as either one without the other on the field. And that's ridiculous.
Correct.
That's something you don't see often when you have two great wide receivers on the field at the same time. I can't think of that in my head ever. We've had just like two that were just like great for one another at the same time since
probably Holt and Isaac.
I was going to say
I'm going real far back, but
the furthest back I could get is maybe Anquan Bolden and Larry Fitz at the same time when they're both on Arizona. But I can't think of anybody else that was.
Didn't Diggs and Thielen have some pretty good years? I mean, even from a fantasy perspective, I think when they were together in Minnesota, I think they had some pretty good dual years, as well. But yeah.
So there's I agree with Cody. There's a lot of I think it's going to be very high scoring considering the offense that each team has. Takes me to my lock of the week, who is going to be Tony Pollard. My man's getting 80. He's on the field 80% of the snaps, and he's a running back who last week had over 20% target share. So on DraftKings, that's just monstrous numbers. I see this game being high scoring, and if it's being high scoring, there's lots of room for him to score and catch value. He is a little high owned, I think. Last I looked, he's coming in on the higher side owned. I think a lot of people are seeing what I'm seeing with that target share. But in a game against the Rams, Dallas will air it out. I've seen them air it out. I know they'll be airing it out. I know Pollard will be getting a lot of those catches. I think he has a high chance to get you value this week, even break the slate. And if he's going to be high owned, he's going to be high owned. I talk about it sometimes. Sometimes you have to eat the chalk. He's going to be my lock of the week for those purposes. But, another good spot to target on Dallas if you're looking to get different is maybe Jake Ferguson, tight end. A lot of people are going to be all over Kelsey and Kittle, those type of people. But you can get you some Jake Ferguson. The Rams are the weakest against tight ends if you're looking at their strengths versus their weaknesses. So that's a good spot to get different. And your man Gallup has also been getting a high target share if you're looking to get different and focus on him.
How much is Gallup going for?
Let's see. Gallup is showing up as only 3,400, only 6% owned. And he's been getting a fat target share. Let's see what his target.
He's due for one of those games. That's why I asked.
Because Brandon Cooks had it last week. So
he's due for
33%. 33% target share last week, dude. Like,
he's due.
Like, you're right. He's due for a game. So, I mean, if you're looking to get different, there's plenty of spots on both sides of these teams to get different.
I still feel like people are underestimating Tutu Atwell. I know that he's fallen, like, because of Cooper Kupp coming back, but I still just feel like that, and maybe that's just me wanting to will it into existence, but I feel like Tutu Atwell, he's obviously third fiddle, right? Like they're in LA now, but he's on the field a ridiculous amount. I feel like he's on the field as much as the other two, like, or at least every time.
What's the target share for Tutu? Do you have that by chance, Phil? The
target low. It was 6% last week. It's not good.
Okay.
I kind of agree with Cody where I think like Atwell might be due for one just because. I mean, his ceiling projections around 13 points. I mean, I know and he's only 4,400. I mean, that in his ownership's sub 0.5%, right? So the problem is I see this offense look very similar to Miami's, where it's Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and here it's Puka and it's Cooper. There is no one else on the offense when you think about it, and that's why I personally won't ever play Tutu Atwell. I know he's due for one, in which case I do agree with you. He's going to have a game where he scores and they don't, or he's the star. But that'll just be the week I miss because you're going to lose more and you're going to win chasing his game. And I'm not going to chase his game when Puka's getting 37% target share and Cooper's getting 22% target share. They're running like what's left, right? It's Miami all over again. It's Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, or just Tyreek Hill. I'm not going to be chasing, people on the Rams side, but on Dallas side, they certainly spread the ball around a lot. So one week it's CeeDee Lamb, the next week it's Brandon Cooks, or it's Gallup, or it's Ferguson, or it's Pollard. Like, you have lots of ways to get different if you're going to touch this game. And for those reasons, I like it because you can be on the same game as other people and still be different from them.
So I thought I was thinking about this game as in running backs, that mess of a running back room there in LA. So I did notice because at the beginning of the week, I was trying to scour to see if I wanted to grab Darrell Henderson off of the waiver wires. And I had Evans last week and decided to drop him because they signed Henderson, right? And then I was like, okay, let me go grab Henderson. They dropped him to the practice squad. And they didn't sign him back to the active roster until today. So
they're just using him as they need him. They don't really want him.
I don't know. So I don't know who to.
I'll put it this way: I wouldn't touch a running back on the Rams, for all the reasons I just mentioned. But also, Dallas Cowboys are favored by 7 in this game. And if the game plays out the way Vegas projects, that means Dallas is going to be ahead, and a team that's behind does not run the ball.
Yeah,
that's another reason I like Pollard. If they're up by 7, what are they doing? They're feeding Pollard, and my man's eating. So, it all tornadoes back to my man Pollard. So, with that, I'm gonna run away with him being my lock, and hopefully he brings home the gold.
Yeah. So the line is Dallas. You said, what did you get? 7 or
minus 7 with my book. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here on Caesars, and then the over under is 45.5.
Correct. So it's a second highest over under on the slate, but it's like a middle of the pack over under for like football games. Like high ones are in the 50s.
It's in Dallas.
It's in Dallas. It means
I actually like the Rams to cover the points here.
I think they cover.
They win, but I think that the Dallas wins this by a field goal late tomorrow.
That's what I agree.
I feel like a 30-27-ish. Maybe
I agree with you. 27-24.
Yeah, something in that type of
28,
range. Those
28,
games,
31, 31, 34, something weird,
something
something like
close,
that.
but the 7 is just too far. I can't commit
Too
to
much.
7.
I
It's
agree. Not
too
with
far.
Dallas.
Yeah, I don't.
But I do
With
think they
Tyron
win.
Smith being shaky, that leads to more potentials for like 3 and outs. With Dallas's offense, which will keep the scores a little closer than what we're thinking.
Yeah,
What we're thinking.
I hate to say that Dallas wins this game. I think the fact of I personally just went to the West Coast and came back to Texas from LA, and I felt like shit. And it's weird. Like I thought that I was gonna feel like it's just weird because I always felt like when I go to Florida, I don't feel like shit when I go forward. But I guess coming back 2 hours difference, it feels different. I feel like it's probably got to feel different for these dudes, especially. I mean, they probably got in here last night or tonight, whatever. And I mean, I know they do this all the time, but they got to wake up a little bit earlier. They got to practice a little bit earlier and play a little bit longer. I think Dallas wins this probably by 3 tomorrow, but I don't think it's 7 by no stretch.
All right, next game. Vikings and Green Bay. It's Vikings at Green Bay. I actually am not touching any part of this game. Very low over under. Jordan Love looked absolutely horrible last week. Cost me money. Safe to say I'm not playing him again. Madison, maybe. Madison, might get a lot of love here. I don't know I think he's high owned though.
I actually have Madison on my stardom pick as well.
There you go. So yeah, I don't dislike it, and he's not high owned.
Actually, for a lot of the reasons you just said, low scoring game, divisional rivalry, those type of matchups, you really want to start to lean in on the running game. He had a sort of an off game last week. I know which sort of lends to people kind of walking away a little bit, but I actually think that there's a little bit more desire for him to then come out and have a good game and a good showing. I see a good amount of screen passes, sort of dump offs. With Justin Jefferson still out, they have to give the ball to someone. And so I know that with Addison having the sort of blowout game he had last week, they might be looking more so trying to take him out of the equation for this week, again, which leads Hawkinson and then also Madison. So again, I want to go with Madison this week. The previous weeks before, he's had double-digit games, I believe, in four of the other games. Again, to the attempts that he's had from the target share from the passing production, it is there. Now he's dropped a couple, but I believe if he comes down with those tomorrow, it should make a good stardom for anyone out there.
Another thing I forgot to mention that supports you that you kind of led me to is that no Jefferson. So that means Jair Alexander, who I think is the GOAT cornerback in the NFL, is going to be on Addison. And you can't really count. I mean, Atkinson's good, but you can't count on him to make all the plays. So that's a more reason for Madison to be a bigger part of this game and, get a bulk of the work. And if you're getting a bulk of the work, like I say on DraftKings, PPR, it's points, man. You don't really have to be doing much with it. And if he is doing something with it, it's a boost. So that's another reason why I support the Madison play plus the low.
Madison in his career has always been on Minnesota and against Green Bay. He has 32 carries for 162 yards in 7 games with no TDs. But in the last 2 games alone against Green Bay, which is relatively probably the same defense, right? Like, I mean, I don't know how much turnover they've had, right? And that's been with Jair Alexander on the field, right? Like Jair Alexander's been there at least for last two games they played. So he's had 36 on 8 attempts and 38 on 8 attempts, and in a couple 7 receiving yards. So I don't dislike that play at all. Just for the simple fact of the matter is, And here's my conspiracy theory, like Phil always talks about with trading. We are now down to the cutting 3 days until the trade deadline. Kirk Cousins either goes big or he goes. They win tomorrow. Minnesota does. I think they're players in the trade market as in buyers. If they lose tomorrow, I think they're players in the market as sellers. So I think that Minnesota needs to play. They need to play good because they have lofty expectations. And I think if they don't play well, they come together and be like, oh, Kevin O'Connell is like, okay, this ain't the team I want. It's time to tank. Drake May, Caleb Williams, all of these dudes, Michael Penix Jr., they all look great. Let's just slow roll this down the hill. And we end up with a top 3 drafted type quarterback next season. And I get the quarterback I want, and I can make him like I want. So I think that this is one of those make or break type games. And these guys all got to show out. And I think if Minnesota does do well, and this game is not just an NFC North snooze fest like we've seen before, I think that it lends to a running game. So I like the Alexander Madison play. And of course, like Phil says, Jair Alexander is going to be in Addison's grill all day tomorrow. So
spread is -1 for the Vikings. So they're favored by 1 with an over-under of 41.5, which gives you a low over-under, which is that division rival.
I'll take the Vikings for 1.
Greedy. Yep. I think I'm taking Vikings with the 1 point.
For 1.
I think they're the better team. Jay Alexander is a little banged up coming into this game, but, he's a GOAT in my book. So, injuries don't usually, fully stop the GOAT. So, and Addison's not, Jay Jetta. He's good, but he's not Jay Jetta. So
he's coming along. He'll be there eventually, I think.
He'll be there eventually. So he ain't there yet. So I don't think, with that said, I think Jair can still shut him down. So I'm going to go with the Vikings -1.
I think the Vikings take this 24-21, 24 something. I think they get at least they hang at least 24 on Green Bay.
21-17 or something like that. Is what I'm saying.
It's something slow and muggy, and I think it's a 1-score ball game. This is how Minnesota does, but I think they win tomorrow. Definitely cover a 1-point spread.
Next game, my New Orleans Saints at Indianapolis.
Oh, real quick. Luke Musgrave is questionable tomorrow. That's the
tight end for
that's the most important. And Alexander obviously is questionable. Sorry.
No worries. Saints at Indianapolis.
Lots of questionables here. You want me to go through them before you get on your stick?
You can go through the injury report.
On the Saints side, Taysom Hill is questionable with a chest injury. Michael Thomas is questionable with illness, so we don't really know what it is. Jimmy Graham also is questionable with illness. The guard, Max Garcia, is questionable with illness. So
they all just have the same sickness.
All of them got the flu or the COVID or something. They're all just hanging out together. Andrews Pete, the offensive tackle,
the same girl.
ankle. Demario Davis, my favorite player on your team, is questionable with a knee. And Honey Badger Tyrann Mathieu is questionable with a foot. Marcus May is also has the same illness. The safety has the same illness as everybody else and a hamstring problem. He's questionable. And then Alontae Taylor, your third string corner, and JT Gray, the backup safety to Tyrann Mathieu. So that's on the Saints side. And then on the Colts side, Kyle Grandson out with a concussion. Braden Smith, the tackle, and a cornerback, Juju Brents. Questionable, Zach Moss. So pay attention.
Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about in this game. So Zach Moss has been limited or not practicing all week, something along those lines, which if that is the case, I'm be all over Jonathan Taylor. He's just another one of those. He's like an Eckler, dude. He gets catches out the backfield. He runs heavy when he's not catching the ball. He's in for a high product workload. Anthony Richardson isn't playing, so he doesn't have to worry about vultures taking his runs or his touchdowns. So I like him on the Colts side. I'm not really paying too much attention to anybody else on either side. I don't know if I want any receivers on the Colts side. The Saints, Olive's a GOAT. Michael Thomas, but he's sick. Who knows what this sickness is? Is it a cough? Is it COVID? Do you have a fever or you just have a runny nose? I don't even know what it is. So it's also a lower scoring projection. For those reasons, I don't like it. I wish our quarterback was better because if he was, I'd be all over people like Olave with this type of matchup. It does have the Saints favored, which I don't think we win this game. So I really don't like players from this, but I would say it is sneaky for DFS purposes because there might be a chance that somebody comes out of this game in the optimal, whether it be a receiver for Indy or whether it is Jonathan Taylor.
I'm highly surprised that Michael Pittman is only 3% owned, right? 3.1% owned right now.
Because Richardson's
He's the number one.
He had a good game yesterday or last week.
Yeah, he's projected around 14 points or so in season long. I'm actually going to set him on the bench tomorrow, just for the simple fact of the matter is I'm hoping that I'm riding with Jordan Addison and Nico Collins.
But I guess Pittman's going against Lattimore. I guess you want to stay away.
He hasn't. I mean, I saw a stat today that Lattimore hasn't allowed a touchdown in so many games.
He's a goat. He's great.
He's great. But he's also one of those guys, just like Alexander. We're dead is the days of a corner traveling across the field. It doesn't happen anymore. We're not seeing the Champ Baileys of the world or even Richard Sherman at his peak. These guys would travel across the field.
I think they will when it's somebody like Jay Jetta or somebody like that. They're not going to travel across the field for fucking Pittman.
So I think that I saw that Josh Downs is really high owned.
He's a sneaky one.
But
just don't get it, dude.
He's cheap.
Is the amount of money that Kamara costs outweigh the benefit of going with him tomorrow? Because from a fantasy perspective, okay, that's what I was thinking. Because I mean, when you look at the numbers, it's hard not to want to go with him. Since he's come back, his fantasy production has been really good.
Fourth highest on running back.
If you have him season long and you're not playing tomorrow, that's just you're being
that's what it wasn't even a point of trying to include him in any sort of list because I mean it's Alvin Kamara. You kind of got to start him, regardless of the situation. But the production has been there. It hasn't been like you're just drafting off of name, and maybe the production hasn't been there, such as with Derrick Henry this year so far. But the production has been there. But just like with the amount of money.
Yeah, he's high owned and he's expensive.
Yeah.
So it fucks it up. But if Taysom Hill is sick and not going to be a vulture, then that's a boost to Alvin Kamara. So could be what people are saying, why they want a lot of him. But
gotcha.
I don't know, man. Like when I see low over-unders, plus I know my team, like last week, I think was the points we've scored all season. And, it'd be nice to get back to the Saints that, we used to score 40, 50 points a game and still.
You're not doing that with a defensive head coach and an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, we had no defense back
in basement.
So we would score points. Fantasy would be jumping through the roof for Saints players, but we would lose games because our defense sucked. Now it's like our defense is pretty fucking solid, and our offense can't score points. And it's like players that cost $7,300 or $8,000 and these prices that Kamara and them cost, it's hard to say or hope that they'll get you a 30-point game when we're scoring 10 to 17 points a game. Yeah. They would have to get every single score and almost every touch to get that value. It just doesn't make sense. But in season long, like you're not benching Kamara. Like he's going to get you your 20 points.
Kamara, you better have Christian McCaffrey and Raheem Mostert or somebody like that if you're benching Kamara, and then you better think twice and maybe even just flex Kamara out.
That's another one when we get to it. My man Mostert has like no ownership, and it's fucking weird for somebody that gets like 40 points a game. So
yes, that's
a very sneaky DFS play, but we'll get there. But that's really all I got to say on this game. Yeah. I mean, the Saints are favored by 2, I think. Yeah, Saints are favored by 2 on the road. I don't bet against my Saints, and I also don't bet on them anymore because I feel like I lose all my sports bets, and I don't want to throw karma on my team to make them lose. But I personally, if you're betting, I don't think the Saints cover this. I don't.
You don't think that you think
the way we've played lately, dude? I don't think we win this game. I mean, I think the Vegas sees us winning this defensively because it's Gardner Minshew and he's susceptible to throw interceptions and throw games, and they got us winning it defensively. But to be honest, I don't even know if we win this defensively. If JT starts running all over us, it's not going to be good.
Well, we saw what ETN did to you.
I think Carr he started to play a little bit better down the stretch against the Jaguars towards the third and fourth quarter. They really started to move the ball a lot more effectively. I think that's what you see a little bit more against the Colts defense. It just lends to that. I think you guys' wide receiving core will lend to be able to break free against that secondary tomorrow. So I do see the Saints winning tomorrow.
Appreciate you, Brad.
I think you split. I'm going to go with Brad here. I think you split with the AFC South. You've beaten the Titans and you lost to the Jags and us. And honestly, think that the Jags and us are the best two teams in the AFC South. I think the Colts are dead in the water without Anthony Richardson. I'm sorry, Gardner Minshew, Uncle Rico. It ain't it. I don't care how much. I think this is probably going to be if Carr can keep you guys alive, can just get you down the field, get you in those.
That's it.
If you can get the freaking touchdowns in the red zone, you'll win the game. You get to the red zone and then you stall. That's the problem. I watched the last two games.
I can't score in the red zone, dude.
And
we're missing field goals, bro.
Groupie needs to go. But so I think that you win. I think you actually win it by 3 tomorrow. I think Groupie gets his freaking groove back. I think that he comes through in the clutch at the end when everybody doubts him.
I doubt him.
But everybody's doubting him. He kicks one. He pulls a big nuts Will Lutz, you know what I'm saying? So like I think that so I think the Saints pull it out and they win by 3 tomorrow. That's my thought.
All right, next game, New England at Miami. Sneaky, big Millie maker potential on this game.
Okay, quite a few questionables tomorrow.
Yeah, you can run through these injuries. I'm just going to say before you run through them that in my mind, Miami is one of, if not the number one highest scoring offense in the NFL this year. And when you see players coming in at low ownership on their team, it's like someone handing you free money.
I got thoughts on that. So your Patriots side, you have 2 offensive linemen that are out tomorrow. Josh Uche, the linebacker's out. Questionable. Okay, you have Trent Brown, questionable with the ankle. 3 defensive linemen, 2 corners, and another defensive back. On the Dolphins side, my man River Crankin' Yank Craycraft is out tomorrow. Javon Holland, the safety, is concussed, so he's out. Questionable. Alec Ingold, the fullback, Raheem Mostert with an ankle. So that could be why the ownership level is low because they're looking at that ankle. Okay? People are scared of it. People know that Mostert has an injury history in the past. This could be the problem. Xavier Howard, the number 1 corner, is questionable with a groin. And like I said, we always know what a groin means. The other, Nick Needham, is questionable. Jalen Ramsey could make his first start tomorrow. He's still technically questionable. And then so all 5 of their corners tomorrow that are supposedly on the active list are coming in with a questionable tag. So with that being said, I can see now why this has the highest over-under, because they think Miami's going to score and they think that Mac Jones is going to become some god because he beat the Bills last week and going to throw all over this half-ass cornerback room that's all. So I don't know.
I don't see that. I mean, I see the Patriots are projected for like 20 points, but I'll give them a projection of like 16. Miami's projected for 27. I'll give them a projection of 30. I'm still at like the 47, 46 mark. Mac Jones is probably good for 2 or 1 and then a running touchdown, with the running back. But regardless if Mostert has the ankle injury or not, Salvon Ahmed does not have an injury designation, and he is 0.1% owned. And we all saw him get like 40 fantasy points a couple weeks ago. So it does not scare me to play even Salvon Ahmed. And New England doesn't have a stout run defense. They're actually allowing a good amount of DK points to running backs.
Ahmed, if Mostert is questionable and does not play tomorrow, I like Ahmed, but I love Jeff Wilson, dude. I don't care what y'all say. I don't care what nobody says.
I can't go there.
I
just had a showdown and he fucking touched the ball. And he just had a chance that he was back. Everything's fine. I just think that they're not going to him, and there's no reason to go to him.
If Mostert's not there, you have to go to Wilson. He's not. He's the same running back. He's the same running back as Mostert.
They're going to go to Ahmed because they did it against Denver. And man had like 5 touchdowns.
That was A-Chain.
Or A-Chain. Oh, that was A-Chain. But yeah, Ahmed has been beast.
Ahmed had a good game.
Like 2 weeks ago.
Like the first or the second week.
First week, I think it was.
I believe he had a really solid game.
Did.
Yeah, he did. He had a solid game. But he got hurt and he had to go out for a little bit.
Then he came back.
Yeah.
I just don't. I know people. You weren't the only one talking about Wilson for their showdown game recently, and he did nothing. Absolutely nothing, to the point where he fucked my lineups up, and maybe that's why I'm biased against him.
Because last week against Philly,
he did nothing, dude. Literally,
Philly's defense, though. I mean, obviously this is the Patriots' defense, and what does Bill Belichick do? He owns the AFC East.
He shuts down the number 1 player on the team, so you can look for Tyreek Hill to be shut down. But that run game is still wide open, and Jalen Waddle is still wide open.
With that,
which brings me to my third
pick. Go ahead.
For the third pick of the week for the Kill Athletic Stardom of the week, I'm gonna go with actually Jalen Waddle, which is for the exact reason that Phil just said. We know Bill. He's been doing this for a long time, and what he loves to do, he loves to take away that number 1 receiver. He's going to double him. He may triple him, which actually, from one standpoint, hurts me because I mean Tyreek Hill is my lead, but I'm just hoping it works out just enough tomorrow. But Jalen Waddle specifically, again, he had 8 targets in the first matchup against New England for 86 yards. No touchdowns that time, but I believe this time coming around, you will see that touchdown type production, given the fact that I think that target share may go up to 10 or maybe 12 tomorrow, given the fact that we know that Mostert's also hurt. They may not go to the ground game as much as they were able to go to it against the Patriots in the last game. So thus leaving again more opportunities for Tua to basically have to throw the ball. As I see that running game, if Mostert's not there, it won't be as effective. But again, you could have a fantasy running back like Ahmed who would have a good fantasy game from a passing perspective. But from a running game, I don't necessarily see it tomorrow. But again, just overall, I see a really solid game for Waddle, for the simple fact that Tyreek Hill most likely will be doubled, leading to and also to the fact that we haven't seen Waddle have that sort of blowout game yet. And when I always kind of think about a guy being due, well, this is a great matchup for him to be due because, again, of the doubles that he's going to see on the other side for Hill.
And I like the running backs here. I like Waddle because I think that makes a lot of sense, especially with a couple corners banged up there for New England. They got to cover somebody, right? And, of course, they're going to cover Tyreek first, right? And then Waddle's going to be there. But I'm thinking, I just looked at stats last week from when New England played Buffalo, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, when they beat Buffalo. Last week, I guess, my fault. And looked at James Cook, which we know he's a pass catching and a rushing running back, right? He had 13 attempts for 56 yards. But he had 3 receptions on 3 targets for 46 yards and a touchdown. So there's where you're talking about, Brad, about he may not be – I mean, he may be getting the yards and not the touchdowns in the rushing, but they got to get somebody there to catch the ball out of the backfield. So I do like that. I do like that somebody – and Mike McDaniel is going to scheme this, right? Like, it's like he said – like we've said before, I mean,
we're forgetting – because I forgot it too. They already played in week 2.
Yeah.
And Mostert dropped almost 30 fantasy points on them.
Yeah.
So, and Tyreek Hill got shut down. He was only held to 15, so we call that. But also Waddle didn't have a big performance. So I'm guessing they didn't have a big performance through the air.
Because they have relied more on the run game, and that's what I was thinking. Well, if Mostert has an ankle injury, you may not scheme up a game plan for, Salvin Ahmed to touch the ball as many times as an A-Chain or a
Correct. Ahmed had his touchdown against Carolina. I looked it up. That was his better game. I think he gets value at his current price and his ownership if he gets a game like that again. But he also had
sneaky pick would be Braxton Berrios. I think he had a touchdown in the last game. If you kind of at the bottom, a punt play for a daily fantasy perspective, I called him a couple times before, but this is another one of those matchups that if they are able to kind of keep Waddle a little contained, they got to go to the 3.
He went 2 for 3 for 48 yards or 28 yards, my fault. Against
Did he have a touchdown in that game?
Nah, he had his good game against
Buffalo.
Like week 4. Yeah,
it was Buffalo. Okay, I apologize. Yep. Okay.
Oh no, I'm just saying, like he
could do it. That option.
But somebody, and I'm not advocating for this man at all, but Phil knows how I feel about Chase Claypool. He knows how I feel about him.
I just saw a meme about Chase Claypool, and every team he goes to starts losing.
Yes.
And that's why Miami just lost, because they added him. And ever since then, and the fact that he cost me $100,000, it's got to be right. That dude is negative fucking energy. Like, everything around him just loses, dude. That was the first time I ever heard of him. It cost me $100,000. And then, every team that's had him did terrible, and when they got rid of him, they started winning. And it's like, I'm not playing Chase Claypool. Because if I'm playing Chase Claypool, I'm going to lose. I'm better off letting somebody else play him.
Crazy. He is and this is the funny thought. Like, he's okay, he's cost the same price, $3,000 for him and Braxton Berrios. Okay, here's your thoughts here. Braxton Berrios' projection is 11.79 points tomorrow. Chase Claypool's is 3.85. And the ownership for Braxton Berrios is 0.3, and Chase Claypool is half of that at 0.15. So Claypool, if this is either a runaway train game, Claypool is super Millie punt play, or if they're getting dogged for some reason, this is because Bill Belichick mind games, and they're getting dogged, and Claypool's out there. This Claypool's the size of a freaking tight end. He's a freaking tight end that runs receiver routes. So I don't know.
I like him for the millie. If you're talking silly for the millie, you're supposed to get silly for the millie. Do dumb weird shit. He is dumb weird shit.
And yeah, it's just like the most dumbest. He's 5th on the depth chart. Like, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, I have this like tingly sensation that yes, I did have the same thing that Phil said, but it was about around this time when he cost you $100,000, wasn't it, Phil? Right around this middle of the season,
It's week 5, I think he cost me.
Right. So I'm saying, like, the man is going to eventually piss somebody else off, and it's going to be eventually
probably me again. I'm not going to play him, and he's going to be like the only thing I needed in my lineup for me to win the $1 million. Like, he's going to have cost me $1 million. Then I'm personally going to find him on Twitter, and I'm going to DM him every day until he responds. And I'm just going to cuss him out every single day, slowly and painfully, until he pays me the $1 million that he cost me.
Reparations, huh?
Yeah. Give me my money.
Pay
that spread for that game is Miami favored by 8.5. And I can't bet against Miami because they score too much. New England sucks. They just had a fluke game. For those reasons, I got to go with Miami minus 8.5.
It's in Miami.
What was the score last time? Let's see. Oops.
Okay, so here's the last 5 for the Patriots.
That. I'm gonna take Miami for 8.
The last 5 for the Patriots. They beat the Buffs by 4. They lost to Vegas by 4. They lost to New Orleans by 34. They lost to Dallas by 35, and they lost to the Jets by 5. Okay, and
34-0. They didn't score a single point on us.
I think personally that the Dolphins come into this game pissed the fuck off by getting railroaded by Philly and all those blown calls. I think that I think Mike McDaniel takes pleasure in beating the shit out of Bill Belichick.
Yeah, he doesn't slow down. He doesn't put in second, third.
No, like that thing said. Like, dude said, he's like, I play with Legos. Getting a wife was hard for me because I'm a grown man that plays with Legos, but beating Bill Belichick is nothing. A man that has that mentality, I want as my coach, right? I want him to have that mentality against the greatest coach that we've seen, I guess, in our lifetime. So yeah, I think 8.5 is probably a good number. I think it could be as high as 10. I mean, I think it could be a 10-point runaway at one point.
Even more, dude. The Saints beat them by 34. Let's be real. We don't have an offense like Miami.
Yeah, and then I think that the defense gets after Mac, and that offensive line that's just in shambles. It's just not the Patriots offensive line. What's his name? Who's that defensive coordinator there? Vic Fangio. I think Bradley Chubb comes after him tomorrow. So yeah, I could see 8.5. I think that's a good bet for sure.
All right, next game, Jets at Giants. I have zero fantasy interest in this game. Not touching it. Lowest over/under on the slate. Just
say, I just hope from a football perspective, it's a good game. I mean, but
we can bypass this one.
Yeah. What's the over/under on that though?
35.5, bro. That's a couple touchdowns.
What's the spread on that one?
Jets -3.
I will take the Jets on this one.
3.
No Daniel Jones, so I'm all Jets tomorrow. Jets defense.
I'm gonna root for my guy that likes the older ladies. I'm gonna go with Zach Wilson.
I'll tell you this too. Breece Hall is the number 1 highest owned running back tomorrow. Don't know why. And for those reasons alone, I'm not touching him, especially in a game that's projected to be 35 points. No, sir. So I will not have
maybe
any
a sleeper on Waller for anyone looking for sort of a tight end. Oh, is he questionable?
I actually wrote him down.
What's the injury on him?
Hamstring.
What was this? Okay, never mind. Take that away.
I wrote him down, and I decided to not touch him because they are very vulnerable to the tight end, but not with that kind of injury, dude, and not with this type of over/under. All right, we'll move on. We'll speed past that one. Next one, Jaguars at Pittsburgh. I don't know any injury designations on this. I'll let Cody go with that before I get my perspective.
Campbell is out.
Go ahead. Yeah, Brad probably knows this in my heart.
Well, I remember Campbell is out. I believe Zay Jones is out. Is there
Zay is out. Gregory Jr. is out with a hammy.
Yeah, he's like a backup corner.
Obviously, T-Law is questionable with his knee.
He's fine.
Brandon Sheriff is questionable with an ankle. Campbell is technically questionable according to what NFL.com says. Unless
how long has
radio is saying that he's not going to play? So I mean, we'll see if he does.
And but Andre Cisco, the thong song.
How long has Deontay Johnson been back?
Last week.
Yeah.
Did he do anything? Probably not.
A couple of catches, I believe.
I know he was high owned.
I think Pickens had the better game, or if I'm wrong on that.
He's high.
I think Pickens had.
I think he was high owned last week because people were riding him high because he was cheap.
I'll put it this way. If you're playing against Pittsburgh, they're terrible through the air. I will have interest in all of Jaguars receivers. I will tell you this. Calvin Ridley is coming in at 3% ownership. That's
because he hasn't done shit in weeks.
Don't give a shit. That's the type of shit you need to target. A wide receiver 1 for a team that has a potential through the air matchup favoring them.
Deontay Johnson,
sub 5% ownership.
Deontay Johnson last week against the Rams was 5 for 6 for 79 yards.
Did he have a
game could have sneaky
12.9 points though.
This game could be sneaky for like breaking the slate, Millie Maker type shit, where somebody in this game or numerous people in this game, you gotta have them in your lineup to win the Millie Maker, and that's because the ownerships on all these players aren't too high. It's not one of the highest over under games that people are like screaming about, and at the same time, you got a lot of playmakers on both sides of the field. You got Deontay Johnson, you got Pickens, you got Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, ETN. But I think the way, statistically on paper, the way to attack Pittsburgh is through the air, and that's Kirk and Ridley. Kirk's coming in at higher ownership than Ridley by a long shot, which probably makes sense. He's 8% owned and Ridley's 3% owned. But I have no problem going to both of them, and I think you should get to both of them. Maybe even do a double stack. I hate Trevor Lawrence. I think he's trash, but that's my opinion. But for everybody listening, you could definitely stack Trevor Lawrence with Kirk and Ridley in this game and bring it back. You could do a bring back with Pickens. Is it Pickens or Pickett? I always mix them both up.
Pickett is the quarterback. Pickens is the wide receiver.
Pickens, so you don't have to do a bring back. I think only once this year out of the 8 weeks has a bring back game stack won the Millie Maker. So 90% chance that you don't have to bring a bring back to win it. But I do like players from this game. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'm still thinking. I'm still going to be watching ownership. But if Calvin really is going to stay down there at 3%, I'm absolutely going there.
You guys have not been the greatest against the run this year, right, Brad? Or have you?
Actually top 4 or top 10 actually in the run. It's we're actually 31st in the league in pass defense, where we shown up from a fantasy standpoint from turnovers. Been getting a lot of turnovers, a couple of turnovers for touchdowns. But I was going to say back on the other side tomorrow. Actually, I like Warren. The backup running back tomorrow. The Jaguars have always been really susceptible to the dump off. Maybe it's the scheme of the defense, but those dump off passes to the running backs.
He's 1.4.
I figured there's probably not a lot of ownership. He got into the touchdown. He got a touchdown last week against the Rams. Usually when you get a touchdown, they add you into the game plan for the following week for at least a couple plays that's schemed up your way. I could see him kind of sneaking away a little bit. He's a smaller statute running back. If they catch him on the screen, he might get away for a little bit tomorrow. Also, with the fact of the defensive matchup, it just lends again to more of a running back. More than I see Pickens tomorrow, just because Pickens doesn't necessarily get off of he doesn't get a lot of separation from the cornerbacks that he goes against, which is why he kind of has to make those big time plays that he does. It's almost through force due to lack of separation. But that's why I like the running backs. Even maybe Najee Harris tomorrow, not necessarily from a yards perspective, but from the fact that he probably will get into the end zone potentially on like one of those 1 yard goal lines. So again, if you're sort of looking for a back end running back tomorrow, maybe even from a season long or a fantasy, watch the Steelers running backs.
I tried to pick Warren up.
Running backs,
but he's out of 7 weeks, or 6 games in 7 weeks, right? He's had 4 weeks of double-digit fantasy points.
Yep,
and he's only 4,800 tomorrow, or 4,900 tomorrow. He's got his ceiling's around 19 points. I mean, I know that's not super high, but from listening to what you're saying, and we know that we saw what we saw Kamara do, right? I think that he's more suitable. He's more suitable to Kamara's skill set because he can catch the ball and run with it, as opposed to where Najee's more of just like the ground and pound, like Derrick Henry type running back. And you guys are a little bit better than that because you get your ass run over by Derrick Henry all the time. So, like all of us do. So I think that we're starting to get better against those running backs in our division when it's these running backs like the running backs that you have, like ETN or like Phil has with Kamara, that can catch the ball out the backfield. And I think Warren is one of those good guys. So but
of course, I love the Jags offensive weapons, as Phil was saying. I agree tomorrow. I don't know if you're going to see. I know last week I was hoping for that blow up Trevor Lawrence game, and I'm not going to call that this matchup just because I'm a little nervous with Watt and Highsmith on the other side.
That's a defense. We don't talk about defenses in fantasy.
I do like ETN. I do like as Phil said, really on a sort of a comeback game because he had, I think, 1 catch for 5 yards the week before. So if you're looking for sort of get different picks, again, I like the Jaguars offensive skilled players tomorrow.
What I don't like about this game is Pittsburgh is the second slowest offense in the NFL. So they have essentially the slowest pace offense, which means they kill clock, they run the ball a lot. The fucking game's over.
With that being said, though, where I'm totally looking at these numbers right now, and I'm like, what the fuck? What do you guys think of first when you think of the Steelers? What do you think of?
Defense.
I think of defense.
Run the ball.
Yeah, right? Fucking Steelers defense, even though they have TJ Watt, who is the best defensive player in the NFL, and Highsmith, who's a top 10 linebacker in the NFL, I would say. This fucking defense is only coming in at sub 2% owned, and they're 2,900 on DraftKings, which your Jags are not lighting the scoreboard up. Hell, they even did halfway decent, and we beat them when we played them. So we saw what they did against Cleveland, who is a ground and pound type team. And so I know that's something we don't talk about much because we don't really ever say, hey, here's a defense that we're thinking about playing. But I'm not, if you're not playing or even if you are, I guess, maybe you could still theoretically think about that. A Christian Kirk or somebody like that, don't be afraid. And I'm just saying this as a lesson. Always be afraid to play a defense against someone that you have on your lineup, right, Phil? You get what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Like, don't shy away from that. I'm not saying this is one particular one that you can do, but don't be afraid of that, because it doesn't mean that because they're scoring or they're getting points, just because a wide receiver is getting catches doesn't mean the defense is going down. It only takes is one interception, one fumble in the end zone, one kick return, which doesn't affect that quarterback that you have, right? It doesn't affect them. And then that defense is just blown up for 12 or 13, 14 points. And that's 12 or 13, 14 points that separates you from the guy that's around you, right? So don't be afraid to pair a defense with where you have offensive players. Now, I'm not saying to go out and do that against if you're like somebody that you expect is going to get a shit ton of points, but your punt plays or shit like that, don't be afraid to run a defense against those guys. I mean, that's just my thoughts on it.
Correct. I agree with you. The line on this is Jags are favored by 2. I like the Jags to cover here. I think they've been the better team recently, but if I'm sports betting, I'm not touching this game. Like you said, Steelers should have a top defense. They're just not connecting right now. I don't know what it is. If they show up, then there's a good chance that they put that pressure on Lawrence. And as I've always said, I think he's a dog shit quarterback. And if they're putting that pressure on him, this game could get easily out of hand for Steelers winning.
I'm fading him tomorrow in season long one more week for Tyson Bagent the backup quarterback for the Bears. I should tell you how I feel about this game. Just for the simple fact of the matter, I feel like the Steelers they're due again, and I'm afraid personally. I know that you say that Trevor says he's good, but is he good here? Is he good here? I mean, he had a great rushing.
He's good.
He had a good rushing game last week. Personally, I'm afraid of him. I'm so gun shy of Trevor Lawrence right now. It's not even funny. I do think that you guys win this because I didn't think we were going to beat them, and we did. I think that you beat them by 3. I think it's a 3-point ball game. I think you cover the spread, being that it's only 2. I think it's a last-minute field goal. Brandon McManus wins it for you in the end of the game. I just feel like that it's slow. They drag you down. You just don't. I just don't feel like the offense gets as going as we expect them they would. But maybe I'm wrong. But I do think the Jags win. I just think it's a slow, plodding Steelers defense and ETN trying to play smash mouth tomorrow. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, it's easy to know where I'm going with this pick. It's not difficult. Of course, it's in my blood. It's in my veins. We feeling it. What is that 4-game win streak? Trying to make it 5. I just think that the defense is playing well enough that they could pick off Pickett maybe once, maybe twice tomorrow, which will then give Trevor Lawrence a couple easy possessions to get a couple scores in, cover the spread for I think it's 3, cover that tomorrow with the W. Let's make it, 5 in a row. We believe in. We hear some talk about terrible towels. We hear some talk about a hope defense. We hear some talk about some things, but this Duval.
Yeah,
we hear talk all the time.
We
here to play. We here to play. So I see Trevor Lawrence when people come at him a little bit. You see a little bit more in how he plays that game. And so even small talk about a terrible towel, I think it'd be enough to fire him up.
Duval all the way tomorrow, then I guess.
Next game, Falcons at Tennessee. Lowest over/under on the slate at 35.
Do we have anything here?
I do not, but one thing. Falcons defense, and that's because Tennessee's rolling out a rookie quarterback who, from my research,
is that for sure? Is that for sure?
I think it is.
Starting?
Last I heard, because Willis, I was going to pick up Willis on the waiver wire just for.
Well, I heard that he is turnover king in college, so it's numerous sites that I heard that from, and that's why people are liking Falcons defense. That's the only spot I'm going to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I did not. Perfect.
Oh, so this is kind of a thought. Like, I see a question here at the chat. I'm not sure if Alex is still around because we're down to one viewer here. But Alex did say at the beginning, who do I flex, Najee, Hopkins, or Foreman? Tomorrow with Will Levis throwing the ball, we don't know what's going to be, or if Malik Willis. I heard 50-50 at the beginning of the week. I heard Levis at the end of the week, so I'm not really sure. I don't know who gets the ball to Hopkins tomorrow. And then Najee, I like Warren over Najee. So me personally, I'm going Foreman here because we saw what Foreman does. I know.
They go back to him.
I think he works well with the offense. I think that Dante Foreman is out to show people that how many people have missed on me. We drafted him here in Houston. He's from down the road here.
He got hurt though.
Yeah, so I don't.
He got hurt in Houston. That was the thing. He got hurt.
So I think that it's Dante Foreman all the way there. So, but yeah, I don't like this game. No Ryan Tannehill. Not that I like Ryan Tannehill to begin with, but I don't like the Titans at all. I feel like this is, if anybody scores points tomorrow for any team, and we don't know what's going on with Bijan Robinson. Like, they didn't give him the ball at all last week, hardly. Like, he didn't get to touch the ball. And there's no really injuries of note, just some defensive players here and there, and then a backup tight end. So
yeah, don't touch it from a fantasy point.
I see. All I can see is if you have this season long purpose, if you have King Henry tomorrow, it's King Henry time. That's all I can say to you is King Henry. If they don't give King Henry the ball, they're going to lose. with a rookie quarterback or Malik Willis. If they don't, they're going to lose. Because
I will say that boosts Henry's potential tomorrow as well, having the rookie quarterback, because
That's true.
sometimes they rely on dump offs to the running back because they're skittish out there and they don't really.
The Falcons' defense is the
process
second
the
highest
game.
owned in DFS tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be
Everyone's
higher
going that
because
route.
yeah,
Everyone's
because
going
of
that.
that. So it would be
and they're cheap too. They're cheap.
Good contrarian play would be to say Tennessee's defense with Derrick Henry. You know,
Well, we've seen that Desmond Ridder is pick prone. The only thing is they did trade out their best defensive player, Kevin Byard, to the Eagles. So
Derrick Henry's only 3% owned, so keep that in mind. The spread is 2.5 for the Falcons. I'm gonna go with Falcons on this one because they're rolling out the rookie quarterback. That's basically all I got on this game.
What's the spread?
2.5. Falcons favored.
I like Tennessee. Close. I think Derrick Henry.
It's in Tennessee.
Doesn't know.
I feel like that the Falcons offense is not that good, and this whole Bijan Robinson shit that they've been going through, I think that this is King Henry's game. Again, I'm going to go back to the trade deadline thing. There are lots of trade rumors swirling around about Derrick Henry getting traded. Derrick Henry either puts the gas pedal down tomorrow and says, hey, trade me, don't trade me. I am King Henry, and I'm about to run for fucking 200 yards tomorrow. I think this is King Henry's game tomorrow, and that's what it should be. I think that the Titans win tomorrow, and I think that they cover the spread. So I guess we're going to go 2-1 on this one.
All right, let's move to the Eagles. We've been running an hour and 20, and we still got 5 games to go. So let's try to run through these. Eagles at Washington.
Curtis Samuel's questionable. That's the most pressing.
I like this game from a DFS standpoint just because Jalen Hurts is not significantly high owned. It's a division rivalry that I have personally seen get out of hand when I lived in Maryland on the DC side. These games used to play to very high overs. They score a lot. I mean, there is times where it's slow and it's soft scoring, but the Eagles are a high-paced offense. They're going to score the ball. Somebody that's extremely low-owned and probably for good reason is Devontae Smith. I'm not going to give up on that dude. I know he's in there and he's going to make some plays one of these games. This could be it. So for fantasy purposes, DFS purposes, I like Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard. I like Samuel, even though he's questionable. If he doesn't play, that's going to boost
Dotson.
Johan Dotson. I like that. Terry McLaurin is high owned. I won't get any of him. I just don't think Howe is that great. That's just my opinion. But I could definitely see an Eagles stack here with no bringbacks from Washington being a solid play tomorrow.
I agree. I like we did see this go to overtime, 34-31. Eagles at the beginning of the season or a couple weeks ago, 5 weeks ago maybe it was. And we do know, like you just said, that Redskins Commandos always like to bring out the best in the Philly. So I do like Philly here. I do like Jalen Hurts. It's just asinine to me to see that Jalen Hurts is not owned that much. 8% is not enough. He's Jalen Hurts. I don't care what anybody says.
Correct.
I was looking to see. I was just trying to think, okay, was this the game where Logan Thomas went off? It was not. I was trying to see who else went off during that game. Okay, so Swift went for 14 attempts for 56 yards and a TD. Against Washington, had 4 receptions for 23 yards. So I like Swift tomorrow too.
Eagles are very vulnerable through the air and not on the ground. I will note that. Some little stat here is Eagles allow 9.3 more fantasy points on DK than average to wide receivers, and they allow almost 8 points less on DK to running backs. That's a significant stat change there. So that might be why Scary Terry's getting significantly ownership.
It does look like
this game.
I just looked. Curtis Samuel does look like he's on track to play tomorrow. So there's your nugget.
Yeah, I like him. Don't forget about Dotson though. He's in there, sneaky GPP play.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying.
I like the Eagles winning tomorrow. Kind of
favored by
away.
7.
Yeah, kind of away.
What they just did in Miami, yes, absolutely.
They're starting to find that offensive momentum that they had sort of last year as well. Starting to really catch that chemistry. So
yeah, and Samuel's only 3% owned too. So
that's good
play. I do too. I like the Eagles, and let's. I think that's
Eagles -7, baby. I'm with y'all.
Yeah, let's
run to the next one.
Yep.
Browns at Seahawks. I have 0 fantasy interest on either side of this. Maybe defense, but I'm not going any players in this game.
No Deshaun Watson tomorrow. My man PJ is running it back. Jerome Ford is questionable. Keep an eye on his ownership. I mean his tag tomorrow. It did look like all week long. Hunt has been. This is mainly for season long. Hunt has been questionable, also with a thigh, but his questionable tag did fall off. And Jerome Ford is looking like it might fall off. He might play tomorrow because he's been running all week. And then on Seahawks, Tyler Lockett is questionable with a hammy tomorrow. So what that means, if you're looking at somebody that's a punt play on this team, if you're trying to grab somebody that's punt here. This is super punt now. Jake Bobo, I did like what I saw from Jake Bobo last week from Seattle. And then, of course, my man, Brad's man, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I like Jackson tomorrow. Plus, he would lock it out. That's sort of a I'm not sure how much he's going for, but if you kind of need a lower end receiver tomorrow, I like that matchup. That's sort of my only takeaway from that one.
He's 4,300. He's less than 1% owned. It is going against arguably what people are calling the best defense in the league right now in Cleveland, but their offense can't keep up. So defense.
But they're still giving up points. So even that last game against, I think it was at Indianapolis. They were even able to put up, I think, 38 on them. So you can still score on that defense. Statistically. But I got
Seattle's favored by 3.5.
I like Seattle to cover the 3.
It's in Seattle. They definitely cover 3. I think they win by 7 at least.
Yeah.
I think Gino makes open ones up on them tomorrow.
I'm with y'all on the Seattle pick. Next game, Baltimore at Arizona. Baltimore is coming in significantly high owned. Lamar Jackson is the number 1 highest owned quarterback. Him or Mahomes will probably be my quarterback for cash game purposes. That's the double up, set the heads. From a fantasy standpoint, there's a lot to like on Baltimore. I personally like their defense in this matchup. They are like one of the most, if not the best, stout defense with refusing to give up points to opposing sides' quarterbacks. And with that, if you're shutting down a quarterback, you're shutting down a team. So I like their defense. Zay Flowers is extremely high owned, but I like him tomorrow. He's going to be, one of my core cash plays in my cash lineups. I even like Mark Andrews tomorrow. I don't know his ownership. Let's see.
Lower than what I expected.
Lower than what I expected. So I do like Mark Andrews for big game tournaments tomorrow. He's got a highly favorable matchup against Arizona, especially with the way that him and Lamar Jackson have been syncing together recently. But if I'm running cash, I'm not doing a double stack, especially with Lamar. You don't need to because he runs the ball. He gets you points on the ground. Stack him with one. You can stack him with Flowers and be good to go, and not have to worry about anything.
Yeah, no injuries of note. I mean, I guess Marcus Williams, the safety, their number 1 safety there in Baltimore, besides Kyle Hamilton, is out. And then on the Cardinals side, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and a linebacker are out. They thought they might get Kyler Murray back, but they activated him, but he's doubtful. That's That's really all the injuries of note. So I'm not pulling anybody on Arizona tomorrow. I don't like any of them whatsoever. It just looks like I thought they were going to be somebody, but I feel like they're a sinking ship at this point. So I'm done with the Redbirds.
Yeah, I like Baltimore tomorrow, and this one going away.
They're favored by 9.5. I'm gonna go ahead and see Baltimore winning this by 10 or more.
It's in Arizona. It's in Arizona. I think that Baltimore, after what they did last week to Detroit, yeah,
same thing.
This is worse. So
exactly. If you are playing Emari DeMarcado, I don't dislike it. He's getting targets out the backfield, and he's on the field 80% of the time. So I don't dislike it, but it's Baltimore. I'll probably be running out some Baltimore defense tomorrow in my lineup.
I mean, if you're looking for a waiver wire fill and you have to pick up DeMarcado, or you already had him on your bench from a couple weeks ago, it might be worthwhile because
in PPR,
they're going to have to throw the ball, and he's a guy that they throw the ball to, and Josh Dobbs needs a dump off, and they don't have Zach Ertz anymore. And
Somebody got to get the ball.
It speaks for itself. So I for season-long purposes, I could see him trotting out there tomorrow.
Next game, Kansas City at Denver. Immediately looking at this, I think, what did Miami do to Denver? And I think Kansas City can do the same thing. But that said, it screams fantasy love to it. The only problem is Mahomes spreads the ball out so much that it's hard to like stack him with somebody other than Kelsey. I mean, you could stack him with Rice, but then what if he gives it to Tony or Marcus Valdez-Scantling? Like, he just spreads the ball so much. The safe play is Kelsey, but you can't play safe in GPP and Millie Makers. That's how you lose, is playing safe. So, if you're playing GPP, silly for the Millie, I love this game, but I think you're going to have to stack an unsafe. You're going to have to swim in uncharted waters with Kansas City and get different with somebody other than Rice or Kelsey and go to Tony or Marcus Valdez-Scantling. Don't they even have Cole Hardman back?
They brought Hardman back for a reason. They brought him back for a reason.
You can get different there. I don't like any Denver players. Kansas City's defense has been different this year. They've been better than they have in the past. And Denver is just not it right now. I don't know what's going on. I know Javonte Williams looked pretty solid, I think, recently, but I don't like it. But the highest owned player from this game is Isaiah Pacheco. He's got the best matchup of the game on paper. He's another cash play that I'll be running in my cash lineups. Pretty solid. Guarantee you, 15 to 20 points, maybe even more. That's my outlook on this game as a whole.
Okay, so I just was thinking, I was like, okay, what has Cortland Sutton done in the past against Kansas City? It's 27 catches for 413 yards and a TD in 8 games against the Chiefs. I would personally, this is another one of those games, my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat putting it on right now, because Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton are both on the trade block. Okay, what does Phil say? What do we say? We're trying to advertise these guys, right? We're trying to advertise them. I've heard tons of rumors against this. Steve Smith, legendary Steve Smith, called out Jerry Jeudy and called him dog shit. Dog shit. Basically called him dog shit. And
like
Jerry, yeah, right? You guys that are like this fucking tall calling people dog shit, right? Yes. So I literally feel like this is a game where either Denver is going to try to show up. I feel like Sean Payton needs for this to be something that he can do, is to show up to advertise. Okay, I got to get these people out of here. I want my own team. I want all my draft picks. I want all the shit I didn't have when I came here. So I feel like I don't think that they're winning. But I can see this being a runaway game for Kansas City out in the front, and then they come back and the Denver Broncos start putting some points on the board because we're just kind of getting lackadaisical. So I could see this being if you're having to get somebody from Denver, I think I'm riding with Cortland Sutton. I called him on a bring back last week, and he ended up paying off. So I think that's probably the only person on Denver's side that I would touch tomorrow is Sutton for sure.
He's low owned, 5%, not a bad play. And you're right.
I like
Mahomes. If you stack
I like
Mahomes,
Rashid Rice again. I think they're finally starting to kind of find a combo with Pat Mahomes for a receiving option, from a receiver. That would be kind of the sneaky play, maybe. But besides that, I think I agree with what everyone else has said. This is kind of a going away game. Maybe there might be someone from the Denver side that could potentially bring something up, but I don't see it.
Ignore Nick.
No, absolutely not.
Do not play Brian Fielder this week. He's throwing bot lane. But with that said, I mean, you said that he talked all that shit about Judy. Got me interested in playing Judy. Sub 5% owned, 3% owned.
He's again one of those guys that's tied to the trade rumors. So both of these number 1, number 2 wide receivers, they're in Denver. They're on the block. So I mean, those dudes they're playing for something tomorrow. Rather they're playing for pride or playing to show off. So hey, somebody come get me, right?
Spread for this game is Chiefs -7, over under 46. I don't think the Broncos can. I know you're talking about the trade block, but I'm saying
that the Kansas City wins this game for sure. But I
see him covering. I see him winning by 10.
Yeah, I see cover.
I agree. I'm just saying that the Denver that Russ plays like Russ, and Russ throws the ball down the field, and it's a division rivalry, and it's in Denver, and all that shit that they say, Mile High City and all that kind of crap. So I just feel like that Denver kind of advertises tomorrow, and that's what we see. So if you're bringing it back.
All right, last game on the slate, for the main slate, Cincinnati at San Francisco. I believe there's some big injury potential here with the quarterback for San Francisco. I think the last I read is Purdy is playing, but I don't know.
Yeah, he's set to start. He cleared concussion protocol.
All right, so this game,
and they can get Trent Williams back also.
This game's intriguing because it has the potential to be a big scoring game, but Vegas does not project it to be that. They've got to project it at 43 points. They got this projection like Burrow from fucking week 1, and
It's the San Francisco defense, I think, more than it is Burrow. I think Burrow's kind of getting back to that point, but
I think you got to temper your expectations on this game. I don't think it's out of the question to focus this game for a milli maker, because it could happen on either side. Purdy or Burrow go off, but it's not a game where you should be like, oh, I'm making 20 lineups and all of them are going to be from this game. I don't think that's something you should do. But
ownership's insane right now that it still says that Darnold is it's the ownership's insane.
It's all the ownership is focused on Darnold, and a lot of ownership on Jamar Chase, and they're forgetting that Higgins is back this week, and Higgins is sub ownership. So, you got to take that into consideration. I could never own Jamar Chase that high of ownership, knowing that Higgins is back, especially against the 49ers. They're a good defense, and they're another team that's going to try to shut down the number 1. That's going to be Jamar Chase. So. But from the 49ers side, I like Kittle. I like CMC. I don't think CMC gets value for his price this week, but there is some interesting 49ers plays. Ayuk as well, since there's no Samuel. I think even Ayuk or Kittle could, be in the milli maker lineup, like I mentioned with some other games as well. And by the way, Nick, we already covered that game, and we picked Miami.
Miami for sure.
Miami.
So, I mean, obviously, if you're running a cash lineup tomorrow and you don't have Christian McCaffrey in it, it's because you couldn't afford him. I mean, Phil's going to tell you not to run him because he's just outrageously expensive. I like him. But for this game in particular, I am not too afraid of Chase after what I just saw Addison do to them. I don't feel like this defense is, and it's the offensive line for Cincinnati is not terrible, and their left tackle that's going to be going against Bosa is who they paid for, Orlando Brown. So I mean, he's supposed to be a top 5 left tackle in the league. So I mean, I don't see that him getting a lot to Burrow as much as we expect him to. I think Burrow, Zach Taylor is from the same tree that Kevin O'Connell is from, right? Zach Taylor was the offensive coordinator before Kevin O'Connell was there in LA. So it's the same type offense. And we just saw this. So it's either going to go one way or the other. San Francisco's like, okay, we know this offense. We just saw it on Monday night. Or Cincinnati's going to be like, hey, this defense is going to go against the offense that we just played against, or that they just played against. It's going to go the other way. So I'm not super shying away from Jamar Chase, especially if you have him a season long and you don't play him tomorrow. It's your own fault. I'm telling you right now. But I like Phil. If Higgins' ownership is 3%, which it is right now, they can get to Higgins. If it wasn't, KJ Osborne couldn't catch a cold the other night. He was open 3 or 4 or 5 times. Yeah. So Higgins is open like that. Higgins is gonna catch those balls that KJ Osborne did not catch.
Also got to note that Higgins is way bigger than the average corner covering him, and if they get down in the red zone, it's most likely going to him. I do see some questions in the chat.
Follow us, like and subscribe, and we would love to answer your questions.
Correct. And I will start with Chandler Constantino's question. I'm guessing you're talking about Amari Cooper with a backup quarterback or Ridley. I'm not sure if that's your question. It all depends on if it's PPR or not. But earlier I mentioned on the Jags game that I do like Ridley this week. So for purposes of that, I'll tell you Ridley. I think there's a chance.
Thanks, Dylan.
For him to pop off this week. I know he had his pop-off weeks and then he fell off, and it's kind of been a Christian Kirk show, but I'm still a fan of Ridley.
Yeah, I don't know if PJ is going to get the ball to Cooper like Watson does, but Cooper's Cooper. Ridley has the pop-off potential this week, and I know we all just said that a little bit earlier. Yep. I think that it's kind of quantity and quality both there. So I'm not going to shit on either one of them. It really depends on who your other wide receivers are. If you got super boomers on your team, I might take the risk on Ridley. But if you got some unique constant, I think Amari's going to be more constant than Ridley is, because he's not fighting with as many wide receivers to catch the ball. He's a number one. Ridley is a number one, but he's not playing like a number one. So that's just my take on it. Depends on who the rest of your people are, but I like them both. And Phil likes Ridley, and I think Brad likes Ridley, but I'm not totally off of Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I like Ridley a little bit more. I just don't trust the relationship with Cooper and PJ just yet. I need to see a little bit more. So from that standpoint, I wouldn't want to give advice to lean towards a guy with a receiver with a backup quarterback like that without the good chemistry. So I'll roll out Ridley.
All right. Next question. Adrian asks, Tony or Pacheco?
Pacheco, 100%.
My lock of the week is Tony Pollard. If that's
Tony Pollard or Darius?
Yeah, if you're talking about Tony Pollard, that's my lock of the week. It's still a very tough question. Pacheco is a monster matchup. Tony Pollard, as I mentioned earlier, he's on the field 80% of the time. He's got an over 20% target share. You're talking about PPR. I think you take Tony Pollard here if that's what you're talking about. If you're talking about Kadarius Toney or
Oh, maybe
Pacheco,
it's
then
Tony
definitely
Y,
Pacheco.
not an EY. So we think he's talking about
Yeah.
Pollard. So if it's
Tony Pollard is
Tony
my
Pollard.
pick if we're gonna go there. But if you have both of them, I think you should be starting both of them. I don't know who your other running back
Who's
is.
your flex?
Yeah. You should be both of them this week if you have both of them. They're probably my two favorite running backs on the slate this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of a tougher one, but
Correct.
I'm gonna lean a little bit for Tony just because Andy has this thing, and he might run out Clyde tomorrow, and that could take that touchdown away from Pacheco or the
And
other running back,
right?
McKinnon. Yeah,
McKinnon
so
always in there.
So
dude.
Pacheco, is a lot of the harder yards, but then when they get into the red zone, sometimes they like to change up the running back. So from that, again, I would lean a little bit more Tony.
Dylan says, "What up,
what up, my dude?"
Go
ahead. One flex full.
One full flex PPR. Okay, so this is a flex. It's a flex. Okay. Hollywood Brown versus Baltimore. Joe Mixon versus San Francisco. Downs versus New Orleans. Kareem versus Seattle. Michael Thomas versus Indy. Leaning Mixon for volume or Downs for upside. Saints rough against the slot.
I will tell you my take. My take is absolutely no Hollywood versus Baltimore. I don't care about the revenge narrative. Baltimore's defense is one I talked about earlier for being stout in this game. Mixon versus San Francisco, that's tough. I can see Mixon play. It's not completely out of the question. San Francisco's defense is pretty stout. Downs versus New Orleans. Downs was actually, I think he was in the Millie Maker lineup last week. He popped off. Maybe you're intrigued by his performance last week, but
volume is there. He's been getting Gardner Minshew's going to him.
I don't see him going back to back with that type of potential, though. But my play is going to be either him or Michael Thomas because that game does have that type of potential. But Cody did mention earlier Michael Thomas is sick. I would check into more on his illness tomorrow to see what it is. We don't know if it's like a flu or
touchdowns. 3 straight weeks of double-digit fantasy points, and he's gotten 6 targets, 8 targets, 6 targets. And then in week 3, when Gardner Minshew was also in against Baltimore, 12 targets. Gardner Minshew is going to Josh Downs. You can count on that. He's going to Josh Downs. I think in this situation, I think that we saw that Alexander Mattison could not run the ball. They had to throw the ball. I think I'm going Downs here because obviously you have to have a better 2 running backs if you're flexing Joe Mixon. So he's a flex. So if you're not running him as a full running back, I like Downs. I like Downs just because he's gonna get because Minshew's.
I don't disagree with that. I'm leaning Downs or Michael Thomas. I would still monitor Michael Thomas's illness and see what it is because a flu will certainly slow him down, but a runny nose or a cough might not. So I like that. I appreciate the subscribe and like also to the channel.
Thank you. I also agree with Phil. Downs. If you don't feel good about Downs, I will lean then towards Michael Thomas. But I just think Downs should see the target share. I see this Colts being down tomorrow, which leads them to have to throw the ball.
Yeah, he says, uglier question, got to start one running back full PPR, Roshan, Ford if he plays Singletary or DeMarcado.
I just talked about this I'm actually going to say DeMarcado, dude. I'm probably going to be on my own on this one. But
no, I'm with you, Phil.
Okay,
I'm with you. The dump off potential is so there, and Dobbs is a dump off.
He's Roche, and Roshan is in that battle with the reemergence of Dante Foreman, of a pissed off man that runs like a pissed off man. He's on the angry runs list for a reason, right? So I think that you got to go DeMarcado here.
Baltimore's defense, dog, they're just going to be in his face. He's going to have no choice but to dump it. He's already getting 20% target share on the season as a running back.
Ford, I have Ford personally. I'm not going to trot him out tomorrow. I don't care if he plays or not. It's an ankle. He's a running back. I don't care. And you have Kareem Hunt, who is technically full healthy now. Yeah. No, sir. No, thanks. And Singletary, I think I'm a Texans fan, and even Phil saw it earlier. we're gonna go. We're leaning Dame. We're leaning Dame on that game. So that
I know what your rate.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like you're talking PPR league, right? So DeMarcado doesn't have to eat up your Ravens defense for you to still root for him and him still get you 20 points because
Exactly.
get 10 dump off receptions because Baltimore's always in Bob's space. And
Exactly.
And then he's also running the ball. So now he might get you 40 yards, 4 points, 6 receptions.
And when they run off, when the Ravens run off with the game, they're going to have to throw the ball. And he can go. And we've seen him. We saw him at TCU line up in the slot. I mean, it's like, what can you do? Like,
and when nobody's open downfield,
we always
the running backs right there, they just throw it to him, and he gets him a little bit of yards.
We always say too in the PPR, we're really focused on that dump off, the pass catching ability. That's what's going to get you those extra points. That's going to get you the W in your league. And so when we're sort of analyzing the various running backs, that's the first thing I'm definitely looking at is who has some pass catching ability, because unless you foresee that guy getting, 2 rushing touchdowns, in the game because of a good matchup, it's just harder to predict from a fantasy perspective a better game. So again, DeMarcado, your Ravens defense could still shut down the whole thing, but DeMarcado have 5, catches for like 56 yards. You have a great game. Your Ravens win. You win your league. It's a win-win-win for everybody.
And if he gets a touchdown, it's even more insane. Like,
yep,
the points you've definitely got value out of him for that week, and Ravens still win the game and still have a shutdown type game. So appreciate the questions, Nick. Appreciate you, shouting us out.
Appreciate the love, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Very much, man. Appreciate the love.
Roshan, I don't really have much to say about Roshan. What's his matchup?
I don't like Roshan because of of what Foreman did last week. I believe he had 2 touchdowns last week. When you see that, the offensive coordinator is going to scheme that running back most likely up the next week as well because he got into the end zone. And so because of that, I just don't see enough for Roshan. He could go out, have a pretty solid game. Again, it's just given the gameplay of that matchup tomorrow. I just think that DeMarcado's matchup's a little bit better from a fantasy perspective.
It's the target share because you're talking PPR. And last week he literally had a 15% target share. I see him getting that again because of how much pressure
and Ertz is out.
The quarterbacks. And Ertz is out. And tight ends are usually the dump offs. They're not going way on the field. And with Ertz out, he's going to have to dump off to somebody. It's going to be the running back. And then also Baltimore's always going to be in his face. I can kind of see them set up screenplays, more screenplays than usual because of that pressure from Baltimore. They're just going to let him in and dump off right to him and let him follow the screen. And if it's successful, then DeMarcado breaks the slate for DFS purposes, but you also win your league.
No problem.
And you got to think that even with Chicago, rookie quarterback, it could get ugly. I don't know. I'm trying Bajan out myself in 12-man PPR. Going to throw myself to the wolves with him for the second straight week, but I'm not going Roshan. I think DeMarcado's where you should go for sure.
All right.
Well, if nobody
appreciate y'all's questions, appreciate the hype, appreciate the follows,
appreciate the love that made the night. It made my night.
We also have a Facebook group. If you get last minute questions or any questions at all for any slate, join the Facebook group. We post injury updates. We post, ownership updates, where we're headed. I post literally last week, like 8 plays and 6 of them were in the Millie winner on DraftKings. So
sure.
Make sure you join the Facebook group as well to stay on top of us and our plays.
Yeah, for sure. And we anytime you guys got questions, hit us up and let us know. We love to hear from you. I just dropped the.
Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate the love.
The Facebook page.
We go live Wednesdays and Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Then I just dropped the Facebook link in the chat so you guys can grab it. and tell all your friends, tell everybody else. And we also talk sports betting here and there. We're not great sports bettors, but we do have some friends that are pretty good at it. We do prize picks. We do like that for fun on the side. And it's just other things that you guys think about. Like if you might want to hear or something, let us know, because we love constructive criticism for sure.
Yeah, and we also have, we've had some special guests come in that are, he was a top UFC sports bettor, making a lot of money. He came in here a couple times. We have some friends that played in the NFL as well. We'll probably have come on here, some special guests sometime. We got a lot of things working behind the scenes, see what we can get for everybody. But, feedback, any of that stuff too, you could share with us and we'll run with it. Right?
Again, check out Keele Athletics coming soon in November.
Thank you.
Definitely will have that out there for people to check out. So if that's it, I think we are good to wrap it up, and we will catch you guys next week.
All right, y'all.
Peace.
Good luck and take down the DraftKings million maker.
Money.
Send us screenshots of how you do tomorrow. We want to hear it. We want to take in the joy with you. So, peace.
Peace.